Last night was a very successful night on the Dyno. Very good. We got everything we needed to get done. We came with a checklist, we were prepared, managed to get all the data filled out on that checklist, which is great, and learned a whole lot more stuff in the process. It was hot. I was going to do this video last night when I got in, but it was nasty. It's still, even 9 o'clock at night, still 40 degrees outside, and the workshop was not air conditioned, so it wasn't pleasant, but it's Dubai summer, it's what you get. But it was good. We had a couple of issues, some small niggly ones, some other ones we need to investigate a bit more. One of them was we realized that there's a charging problem. The battery voltage 12.6, 12.7, I would expect to see over 13. It's probably, I'm going to guess, the rectifier or the plug to the rectifier. I have spares of both. Worst case, it's the stator windings, which we've got as well. I don't see it being a big problem, but it's definitely something that needs to get looked at. Because the last thing we want to do is be charging batteries between runs on the Salt. And if it is breaking down, there's a good chance that it could just break entirely. So we need to look at that. We found an oil leak on the top of the cam box, on the on the vertical head, the rear head. It looks like it's one of the cam box bolts. There's a little compression rubber washer in these things. It just looks like it's not compressing anymore, so I'm going to have to take that off and address that, but that's not a big issue either. Chain, was a brand new chain on it, so that did stretch, which was a given. We did fit the 31 tooth sprocket on there, as opposed to the 30 with the last Dyno run, and as opposed to the 33 that we had on the Salt last year. So the chain stretched, no biggie, we adjusted it there. I do need to do a final adjustment to make sure the wheel's straight, but it was a given. It happens with every brand new chain, so it's not really an issue. Not sure I've seen a difference with the 31 tooth sprocket as versus the 30. And getting off the line, we still had to kick the rollers a lot to get it moving, which I dare say if you watch that video, it's going to be quite comical. And then it's a case of feathering the clutch, biting it, letting go, biting it, letting go, trying to get speed into the rollers so you can actually disengage the clutch and let it run. Once we did get the knack of getting the rollers moving and making sure we were actually in first, not sixth, won't go into that. We did see some other little issues with bolts falling out. We lost a bolt in the chain guard, which just wasn't tight properly. We lost the bolt off the front mudguard, just rattled loose, and that was towards the end of the run. This bike's been entirely stripped and put back together again, so it doesn't surprise me that there's little sundry bolts like that which are loose. But yeah, once we got going, we did a lot of calibration runs with the speed, put the engine under a bit of load, made sure the piston rings, because they're all brand new with the pistons, make sure they were bed in right. So yeah, we do need to go around and Loctite a lot of bolts and bits and pieces. We did notice an issue with the boost controller. When we started giving it a bit more beans under load, we were seeing over 20 psi boost, which is not normal for this bike at all. Normally it's 14, 15 psi. And when the boost wound all the way down, which we did in the last dyno run, we were getting 12 to 13 psi. So quickly looked at that when we've been changing some of the hoses in a rush, in haste, and just not checking my work. I managed to swap the hoses out. So the controller was working the opposite way. So yeah, we've seen over 20 psi boost in this engine, which is not very good, but the dump valve sounds great when it's dumping that pressure. We will have to start looking at the boost controller, or rather the boost warning light on the dash. I did setting a warning, and we did see it constantly afterwards, even when the boost controller shot all the way down. It might just be set slightly too high, or we might just be getting a fraction more compression in these pistons. So I do need to check where it's set, and if it's set at something at 16 psi, then we are getting a lot more boost than we used to, which is something we need to look at. We did play with the boost controller a little bit, just how many clicks made a difference, which we're happy. Like where we had it last year, 30 clicks, you're 18, 19 psi, which is way more. We're gonna still aiming for 14, 15, something like that. We'll have to put a bit of tape around the handle, because although it's got an indent and it latches, but with vibration it can bounce out. So it's another job we need to do as well. As I mentioned, we had been doing additional calibration runs with the speedo versus revs just to check that our calculations for the gearing is correct. And based on what we learned in the last dyno run versus this one, everything looks on the money, which is great. And we did our final 6-gear pull. We seen 113 kilometers an hour on the dyno, which is 194, 195 miles an hour, which is promising. It was good to see that actually quite scary. A heavy dyno like that spinning at that speed, just a couple of feet from behind your head. But it was good that the bike pulled it. We understood where the rev range is. I mean, we're sitting at 8,900 RPM doing that speed, and this thing redlines at 10.6, I think it's set at. So there's still a lot left in the tank at that. One of the things we did notice though is the air intake temperatures spike dramatically when you're doing pulls like that. I do need to go back and look at the previous dyno information just to see if it was doing the same. But yeah, we were getting intake temperatures of almost 100 degrees C, which is a hell of a lot, which is also going to explain why the engine's overheating. Well, not overheating, but going up to 105 degrees C when you're doing all these power runs. It might be, in fact, over here, it might be this part of the intercooler here. I need to take the intercooler off, check that, and double check the flap hasn't broken welds and moved out. It's not seam welded all the way in the inside. A little bit of a shortcut, I'm not going to lie. It's possible that air pressure's pushed it open and we're getting a free run of compressed hot air straight across it. If it's not that, then hopefully the new piping, which is directed to the intercooler, will help cool it down. Another thing we want to do is add 3-4% into the fuel map from about 8,000 RPM onwards, just where it starts to come into boost. We were checking the air-fuel ratio. It's not bad. It's 10.2, 10.5. It's on the aggressive side of a tune. And we will be using slightly different fuel down there. Sunoco fuel, which is not quite the same octane rating as the MS109 that we're running in this right now. So for safety's sake and to help cool the engine, if we add 3-4% fuel just right across the rev range at the top end, and that'll help cool it down a little bit. If we find it's bogging, not pulling, we can always pull a bit out again. We can play around with it, but I think from a safety standpoint, it's probably a good place to be doing that, because under load, this thing is pushing hard. It really is. Well, all in all, a good dyno test. We've got plenty of information. We've come back with a list of all the things we need to do on cardboard, which means once they're done and script off, we just throw the cardboard away once and for all. But yeah, we've got less than a month now. It's getting a bit close. We need to think about shipping plans and getting this thing in a transport case. One of the biggest hurdles is going to be this intercooler. It's probably going to be the next job. We do need to drain the oil and filter just to check the quality, see what's in there, make sure there's no metal shards, give us an indication of the engine life. Other than that, we'll nail through the rest of the list. I don't see anything in there. It's a big showstopper. It'll keep us busy for a week or so. So, all good. Thanks again for your patience. Hope you enjoyed this one. And we'll catch you in the next one.